Good morning. Today we're going to be talking about how to use Excel and drawing graphs, figuring out linear regression equations, and just using it for basic math functions also. So to start this up, you're going to have to go ahead and open up Excel on your computer. And so I've already opened it up, and just to get an outline of Excel, you'll see that you have several different tabs up at top. We'll be using the insert tab here in a little bit, and you have all your different functions that go across with inserting cells, etc. Your type, your font size, the type, bold, italic, the basic stuff you see. Excel's a very important tool, especially in science, because it helps us to do many calculations very quickly and to draw graphs and to be able to report things that would take us a very long time if we didn't have access to this. So now you have the columns and the rows, and so my focus for today is to teach you how to use Excel and to draw a graph and then just do basic math functions using Excel versus your calculator. So there's not any random. I'm just going to pick some random numbers here to start us off with. Now, just for future note, the first column that you write down into, this is typically going to represent your X, Y, X, Y, and so on and so forth. You can set that and adjust it however you want using the graph, but for right now, we're just going to keep it simple. And so I'm going to put some numbers in here, and we're going to start working on showing you how to do a graph. So this is going to be all my X values, and the B column is going to be my Y values. Alright, so once you get all these input here, we can make our graph. So to do our graph, we're going to highlight these two. Now again, remember that this is your X and this is your Y when you highlight it in this manner. And so we're going to go up to insert here, and we're going to find, now you see all different types of charts and stuff here. You got bar graphs, but what we want to do is we want to do a scatter plot, because in the end we want to be able to figure out what the linear regression equation is for this. So we're going to select this. Now there's several different types of scatter plots. We're just going to do the first one here. So we're going to highlight that, and we're going to hit enter. Now you'll see that it comes up here. You'll have chart title. Now the chart title is just what it is. So, and we can just change this and say Excel demo. Alright, and so you have your y-axis here, you have your x-axis. Now this is the data set that we just selected. You see how it highlights that on the left side here once I select on a data point. It doesn't matter which data point you select on. Now a couple of things about the graph is you can actually change you need to add axis titles typically. So to do that, go up to quick layout, and you can select this here, which is one I typically select. Now series 1 is if you can use that if you have different data sets graphed on the same graph. We don't have that, so we're going to delete that off. All I did was hit the delete button after selecting it. The axis titles here, you can give it whatever name you want to give it, and the same thing down here for the x-axis. Now to add the linear regression equation, what we're going to do is we're going to select a data point. Now I'm going to right click that data point here, and you'll see this menu pop up. What we want to do is go down to add trend line, and we're going to select that. Now when it adds trend line, you're going to have different things that you're going to pick. Now since we're talking about linear regression equation, we're going to select the linear graph. Now that doesn't give you the equation yet. You have to physically go down and select display equation on chart, and then this last one here is more statistics, but it tells you how good your data is and how straight your line is. So I always have that selected. Now you can see on the graph here, it shows up with the linear regression equation, and it gives me my R-square value. Now the R-square value, you want it to be 1. That's the best data that you're going to get. But you can see our data, it was made up anyhow, but still 0.9556. Not the best data, but we can work with it. So from this, you get the linear regression equation, which is the most important thing for right this minute, because that's the whole point of this. Y equals mx plus b. So we're going to do this again, but I've already typed in some, these are some numbers that I obtained from an experiment. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use Excel to do some calculations for us. Now, you have temperature, you have pressure. And then what we want to do is be able to graph 1 over temperature versus natural log of the pressure. And so to do that, we're gonna you could calculate this using your calculator, but I'm going to show you how to use Excel to do this. So to do the math portion, Excel requires you to type in equal. Now when you type in the equal, you're telling Excel to do the math part of it. And so in the case here, we want to do 1 divided by the temperature. So we're going to type in 1 divided by. Now we're going to select the cell that we wanted to calculate from, which you can see it's highlighted there, and I'm going to hit enter, and you can see how it populates the answer there. Now you can do the same thing, carry it on down through this until you got all your calculations done, but Excel's nice in the fact it will automatically calculate. If you take your crosshairs and you put it over the bottom right hand corner, see how it turns black, we're going to double click that, and it populates the calculations for the other cells. You can see here, if I select that, I click on that, it's calculated from this cell here. So we're going to hit enter. We don't want to change that. We can do the same thing for this function here, because we're taking the natural log of the pressure here. So again, you're going to type the equal sign. Now this time we're going to do ln. Just type in the letters ln, but we need to put a parentheses. Alright, so once you put that parentheses, you will then select the cell that you want to calculate from. You're going to close that. You don't want to leave it open, it'll cause an error. We're going to close it, and we're going to hit enter, and there we go. We have our calculation done. Now again, we want to let Excel do the work for us, so we're just going to double click with that crosshair, and it populates the answer below. So to do this graph, we're going to select this information here. This again, as before, this is your X, and this is your Y. We're going to go back up to Insert. We're going to select the scatter plot, and you can see right here it shows up. Now, we're just going to call this Excel demo, and then we want to put our layout here, so we're going to select that. We're going to delete this series out. Now since our axes here, so this is X, so that was 1 divided by temperature, and your Y axis was natural log of pressure, and there we go. Alright, so we have our axes labeled. Now there's a lot of dead space here, so I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to get rid of this dead space and make this a little bit nicer to look at. So we're going to right click on the axes that we want to adjust, and we're going to format the axes. Now we can see here the minimum is 0 and the top number is 7. So if you look at this number, we want to have the minimum set at 4. So we're going to put 4, hit enter, and there we go. Alright, that cleans the graph up a little bit for you. Now we want to next add the trend line. We're going to go back and we're going to right click on any data point. We're going to select add trend line. Again, we want to make sure that the linear graph is selected. We're going to scroll down to the bottom. We're going to highlight the equation and the R squared value. And so we're going to pull this up here just like that. Alright, now, so what we get from this is we see that we have the Y equals mx plus b here. So you have your m, the slope is negative 2,969.9. You can see it's negative, which matches up with that. And then you see the R squared value, which is 0.9999. It's about as good as you're going to get as far as data is concerned. So this experimental data was pretty darn near perfect. But the point of this is to show you guys how to set up a graph and to figure out what the linear regression equation is and your R squared value. So if you have any questions, just put it in the comments and I'll try to answer it at a future time. Thanks.